Hi everyone, my name is Bart Smikla and this is our biweekly wg-k8s-infra working group community call. I would like to remind everyone about our code of conduct, which we can summarize as be excellent to each other. If there is any topic you would like to discuss at today's call, please add it to the agenda. Is there anybody new who would like to introduce him, her, itself, themselves? Okay, so let's start. I don't remember actually. Did we do the billing review last time?
I forget if we did, but I think it's worth doing because the numbers are growing as we're adding more stuff, and I think it's worth talking about.
Let's do it then.
What date range do you have?
1 moment, please.
I just pulled up May 1 to May 26. I don't know if that maps what you got.
It's 29 April 26.
Sorry, say again. You're cutting out.
I have it as April 29, May 26.
April 29. April 29 to May 20 what? Sorry?
26.
26. Okay, cool. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So I show the total being at 11,600.
So I have it as 11,115.
Okay. I think we're within sampling noise here. So here's the interesting parts is like looking at the breakdown. Compute is the number one, which isn't particularly surprising. Log volume is number two. And if I recall from looking at it last time, this is all the build logs.
And I think that Aaron, because I saw that it was solved.
I'm going to have to ask you to mute because you're echoing whenever your microphone is on. Bart, you maybe want to share the report you're looking at with the rest of the folks. I'd show the screen. So green is the logging cost. We assumed it was node logging from clusters that were stood up for end-to-end tests. So I set up something to default node logging to off for clusters that are stood up by our jobs. And that seems to have gotten rid of most of the logging noise. I'm not sure what the tail end stuff that is there, but I think we're looking at all projects here. When I last checked, it filtered it down to just the projects where we were standing up E2E clusters, and that went down to 0. So I feel like we've
awesome.
Yeah. The jump in compute there was probably adding the greenhouse nodes as we discussed last time.
Okay.
Cool. I'm sorry about my highly latent audio. I don't know what's going on. So that looks great. And I think that's exactly the point of doing these billing reports.
Yeah. So is there anything else weird or no? I don't think so. So I think we can jump to action items review. I've played with monitoring, and so we have the service account created, which I connected the stack driver to the Grafana instance, which we for test have right now. And I've just started to digging up and playing a little bit with stack driver. Actually, I don't have a lot of experience with it, and it's kind of tricky. So if you have any suggestions or advices, I'm open to to it. It's connected, it's working, so I'm just trying to create some dashboards helpful for us. And that's the update about the monitoring.
So just a quick question. You have Stackdriver feeding into a Grafana instance that's running on cluster?
Yeah, it's on AAA cluster. It's connected to my temporary domain because I didn't create the DNS record. So I have few accounts created temporary for Aaron. This is the domain which is currently pointed. It's working into AAA cluster. I will create the pull request with some subdomain in k8s.io soon.
Okay. What drove the decision to use Grafana instead of Stackdriver's native dashboards and charts and stuff?
So that was the idea of having option to create some dashboard fully open for the community without any accounts needed to see some stuff. And this is just a proof of concept for that.
Okay.
Any questions about it? There's like not much progress to see, and I'm not very confident about this yet, so I'm just playing. And the next topic is node perf dash migration. As we saw the last time, there was a person who took it, and we already have it deployed in the AAA cluster. It's working, but I have a problem to contact this person, and probably Tim could help because everything is working, and I need to have an answer if we can fully switch the subdomain, and this person is not responding to me.
Who are you talking with?
One moment, because I also forget the nick. This person.
Sorry, I just know it's been switched around between a few different people.
One moment. It is the lore core. And the problem is I couldn't find him on the Slack, so, and I don't see his name or surname. Send a link to the. There is no name or surname, but this is this person. But actually, I just need a confirmation, and I think everything works. So we could soon like remove the cluster, but still I need to have a contact with him.
Sorry, I'm juggling too many windows and I lost you. Let me see if I can poke it from behind.
Okay, so the next thing is the billing quota maxed out. Actually, this was kind of resolved today, and Aaron and Ihor, can you give some update about it?
So my understanding is once Ihor filed a request, so somebody not from google.com, it seems to have gotten the appropriate amount of attention, or maybe Tim's attempts to escalate internally got attention as well. Either way, what we got back in return was 100 projects, which will serve us for now. However, if this is the latency we can expect when we ask for projects again, because we will need more projects, maybe we should just go ahead and do a bigger ask now. The ballpark estimate I had for what we would need in total was about 325, 350. That was assuming that each of our like 160-ish repos asks for a staging subproject as a proxy for subproject. So that's 160. And then I ballpark looked at all of the projects that were used by Boscos, just guessed the max number there. And that led me to assume we probably need 325 max. So then if we want some more breathing room, maybe we want like 400 in total. And since we now have a quota of 200, that would mean asking for 200 more.
Yeah, I want to mention that I've requested, so sorry, Aaron, I've noticed your GitHub comment on the issue after I requested, and I made a request for 350 projects. I assume that's fine.
Okay.
So I've checked the docs, the GCP docs. They mentioned that like if you are not satisfied with your current quota, request again. The same. So I made a new request. I'd like to wait for the response from them. If they will decline that, to again grant something like 100, or if they will grant us like 350 total. And I'll also in parallel try to figure out the way how to escalate it internally. So the way how Google public documentation suggests to solve this is to reach out to your sales manager, but obviously we don't have a sales manager. So it's like we are in a kind of unique state here. But anyway, I'm tracking this, so I'll keep us updated on the Google dates that were received in my inbox.
I also have an open bug internally. Just I don't think the process is working for this. I understand that we're a special case in that the amount of projects and the spend that we're looking at actually probably should warrant having a sales contact, but because we're special, we don't. I'm trying to figure out if we can patch the crack that is apparent in the system.
Yeah, I think that we can escalate it internally via CNCF, but I'd like to get the second response from Google before I'll start pulling the strings.
And for what it's worth, I think this was blocking four. It looked like this was blocking 4 staging projects, which I have since merged the PRs for and moved on them. Although one of them was etcd admin, and it was actually unclear to me whether that was an ask for a GCS bucket or if it was asking for a staging project and GCR repo as well. I haven't had time to look at the issue to see if somebody's commented this morning. But yeah, we look to be unblocked.
Great. So any questions about this? So let's jump to the vanity domain flip update from Linus.
Hey guys, I just wanted to give a quick update on the status. So just to recap, so the flip happened a while ago, but it was reverted or rolled back. Since then, we've been looking at various dependencies inside at Google, working with teams to get it done again a second time. We are like in the final stretch right now. I have a meeting later today to discuss an internal bug that was fixed with another Google engineer. Hopefully with that meeting, I can give a better or a clear picture on when we can attempt this next. I was hoping to do this by next Monday, but it might be that the bug that was fixed won't get like fully rolled out until at the end of this week, which is what the engineer was hinting at last time I spoke. But I will update the community again after today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about it? Comments? So let's jump to open discussion topics. There is the first one which Deems asked to discuss is to support mini-view testing. But actually, I'm not entirely sure if there is any problem about this. So do you know anything about any problems in testing, or we should wait for themes or asking for clarification?
I haven't, nobody's poked me, nobody's come and asked SIG testing. I don't see an issue in k8s.io. Yeah, I feel like we need somebody to tell us what the ask is.
So the Deems just wrote on the Slack channel like a few hours ago. So I think that it would be the best to just ask a little bit more because I also have no idea what is needed or what he meant to.
Okay.
So let's jump into the last actually topic, the hosting Google triage party for SIG release from Arnold.
Yeah, hi everyone. So basically, SIG really is looking for a place to host a triage party from Google because it maybe help the release team to do bug triage during every release cycle. So they need just a namespace, IP address, the basic stuff to run triage party.
So what is actually needed? This is like the GCS bucket to store some artifacts, or
Not really, just a namespace is in AAA.
Do you want to host this?
So I flagged triage party as something interesting to look at, but I haven't actually dug into it. Do we need to run an instance per SIG or per repository, or like what is the scope of the assignment here?
I think for the moment it would be useful to just run for SIG release and maybe extend the deployment to other SIGs, but the requests come from SIG release, so we can just for the moment just stick to one SIG.
And what runs in that namespace? Is it compute heavy, just a thin shim like a?
It's a pure stateless application. It can even run in Cloud Run, so it's not really heavy. The only thing we need to be careful is maybe persistence, but I'm not sure we need persistence for triage party.
So we run triage party on Kubernetes for Cert Manager at the minute. I think, yeah, definitely starting with just one SIG would make sense. The only other thing I could think of that's maybe problematic is that we need to have a GitHub token for it to be able to do things. It's got, unless something's changed recently, it basically uses that token on startup to, and periodically to go and fetch more information about all the different repositories. So on a repository the size of Kubernetes/Kubernetes, I think it's worth trying and seeing how it goes. The only other thing is that it's got a caching, like it doesn't have the idea of persistence the last I checked. It stores everything in memory. So when it restarts, it's quite an expensive operation in terms of token usage. But what it does have is the ability to feed it kind of a point in time snapshot. Think of it like that, of kind of state, which is kind of what they call the cache file. So I think in some of the deployment examples, they bake that into a Docker image, or you could theoretically mount that in, which effectively allows it to almost fast forward to that point in terms of state. But even on Cert Manager, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to start up there. So a repository the size of Kubernetes, it's probably about 10, 20 times bigger. So I'd imagine the only other thing is that it's probably got a 10-minute warm-up time, 5 to 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah, about persistent, you can store everything in the Postgres deployment or in Cloud SQL instance. And about the token, you just need a GitHub token with read access only. So you're right, it may take like, I try on my personal GK cluster, it took me like 6 minutes to pull everything in KK repo.
Awesome. I didn't realize the SQL backend had been done. So yeah, that'll make a big difference.
I mean, from my perspective, this all sounds great. I'd love to see a write-up of it in an issue, so we can see written requirements and just make sure it looks good.
Okay, I will file an issue after the meeting.
Any other questions about this? Comments? So actually, this was the last topic from open discussion, and can I ask you, Aaron, to maybe go through boards?
Sure. Can you make me a co-host so I can share my screen?
One moment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this probably looks a little weird. Let me open it up. Oh no, I've lost my dark mode skin. You're gonna have to look at the blinding white GitHub UI. Okay. Create image promotion process. This is blocked, I think, on the vanity domain flip. Just double checking. Yes. Okay. Per Kate's namespace billing information.
Nothing progressed yet.
Okay. I believe I did get as far as giving you the password for a G Suite account that can host a copy of the report. Did you confirm you got that?
Yeah, I will. This is my action item. I will do it after our call.
Okay.
Because I didn't check it yet.
To do remove BART test namespace in AAA.
So this is in progress, and actually it will be done soon.
Okay. You talked about PerfDash, Prow migration plan. So the reason this is still open is I haven't fleshed out things like exactly how to move the Prow control plane, since I feel like moving the jobs is enough of a heavy lift. Excuse me, I've scoped out some of the follow-on work from the initial stuff to create a build cluster. So I have a PR out to address setting up Greenhouse. Greenhouse is our Bazel cache. It's by having Greenhouse in place, we can run a bunch of jobs related to kind and a bunch of pre-submits. Basically, what I'm trying to do right now is to do whatever it takes to get each of the jobs on the release master blocking dashboard to run on our Prow build cluster. I have 11 out of 18 done. The tricky issues now are some of the jobs assume that they have write access to a Google Cloud Storage bucket called Kubernetes release dev. This is something we're going to have to work in concert with the release engineering team on. Kubernetes release dev is a bucket that lives in the Google Containers project, and that project does not allow non-google.com people to write to the bucket. So we need to be writing project artifacts to buckets owned by the community anyway, but it's going to take some effort to migrate in a zero downtime fashion. If anybody wants to help out, that would be cool. Most of the rest are like quota issues, so I'm noodling on the scalability jobs right now to be able to run the 100 node test. And there are also quota issues for ingress and for GPU that need to be investigated. DNS update automation.
So we have a service account right now, I think, and I will move forward like tomorrow. I think we are kind of close to make it happen.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I kind of went to town on your PR to refactor the push script. Basically, like it seems like it's leaning us further and further into bash. I was just wondering if there was a way we could get what we needed without all the bash.
It's tricky because it is of course possible, but it is like kind of not easy to maintain code right now. So I decided to do this refactoring, even if it's taking like a little bit more lines or a little bit more changes than it should have. I feel like it's much easier to right now at least understand what and why is coming, but I'm not, like emotionally attached to it. And if we decide it's unnecessary to have it refactored, I will just do, some hacks and to change the script itself, because I'm not anymore also that much confident it's about this refactoring. I'm confident about the code and about the way of refactored, but I'm not kind of confident it's needed that much.
We can take another pass at it. I noticed you developed bash PTSD while you were working on this, and I have
This
been there.
This is only the part. Actually, I spent with bash into multiple different things already, so I just wanted to have it finished.
So I'm happy to take a look. I haven't had a chance in the last week or two to get back to this topic. I'm happy to take a look. If you think refactoring it will help in terms of maintainability, like I'm all for it. It's been a while since I touched that. All bash scripts go through this life cycle, right? Where they start off small and then they get big and then somebody goes, oh my God, what are we doing?
For me, the biggest problem there was that it was hard. The Docker dependency was hard-coded and it was tricky to use our automation. So I abstracted it a little bit away and moved the Docker actually to the make commands for our local use. So from that perspective, it definitely is much easier to maintain, but as I said, feel free to give your opinion, and I can scrape it if there will be.
Cool. It's definitely flagged in my queue, and I will get to it as quick as I can.
Okay, so this was the thing I talked about. I put the password for this account in a secret. I'll close this after the meeting. Need a script to generate service accounts for K8s conform.
There is a pull request. We are waiting for Dim's comment. I'm whelping him right after our call.
Oh, right. This was, do you need the keys that Dim's already created and handed off? Do you need that from him?
So we really don't, but if something will change, the flow will change, or anything will change, it will be easier to have it consistent, especially when there is only 3 of those already created. At least that's my opinion, but I can proceed without them. That's not a blocker or anything. I just think for the consistency purposes, it's good to have them there.
Okay. My concern, without you having the keys right now, if we decided to like rotate things around, we wouldn't have a way to recover the credentials we've handed to somebody else. So I guess if we find we need to rotate it, they'll come a knocking because they won't be able to write anymore.
Yeah, so that's the easy way to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
But also, if team you could look at it, that would be good too.
So this was me identifying quota changes for the scalability, for jobs necessary to run scalability. I don't suppose there's an automated way for me to like batch up quota requests for a bunch of projects all at once. Okay, because I went through and did it manually for a pool of 5 projects just to test it out, and it's a small enough quota bump that it got approved automatically. This took me a while, but if I look at the capacity that we have over in In our google.com Boscos instance, we have a pool of 40 projects set up to handle pre-submit testing, which will be a fun day of copy pasting and clicking if that's what we got to do. It also sounds like the scalability team is concerned that they will lose troubleshooting and debugging visibility into the set of scalability projects that they currently use. So I'm working with them to establish like what IAM role they think they need attached to this account and what privileges it should have. My default was going to be, sure, give me the names of the people from SIG Scalability who support these tests, and we'll make a Google group for them, and we'll give it project viewer access. I already walked through release master blocking jobs. Setting up greenhouse, it's up. We have the nodes provisioned. I have a pull request out. I've rebased it since the other one landed. I just need to double check that everything's working correctly here. So I hope to have this closed out by end of week. Project artifact management task list. I have no idea what this is other than an issue we keep refreshing.
This
Okay.
is, as far as I see, the Brendan created it. This is the artifact binary, probably artifact binary promotion process, and this part, which is there is a directory binary artifacts or artifacts binary something into the K8s repository.
I'm going to kick this out of in progress for now if it's not actionable, because it describes a bunch of other things that are aspirational, I think. So the concept of having mirrors, the concept of having a promotion process for binary artifacts, not just GCR images. I guess I'd rather see issues for all those discrete steps.
Yeah, I discussed, like I sent an email to Brendan like a few weeks ago. He responded to me, but I don't still have enough visibility or knowledge about this effort, so I'm not able to pick it up or say something about it.
Oh, my browser is failing me. Okay, I'll leave that later. Okay, in our backlog, I think we were going to turn down this cluster, but we can't until node perf- has been migrated, so we covered that.
So there was like a pull request just created probably after the team's reaction, but there is still need to change the pull request a little bit, but I think that it will happen before end of this week.
Okay, storage analysis for billing. Okay, this is another like change to the billing report. See if we can break it down by our bucket, I think. Or
Yeah, I just filed a separate issue to turn on the GCS logging, which we don't actually have turned on right now. I'm digging through the billing history as we're talking here, and noticing patterns and wondering what those patterns are, and realizing I don't have the data to analyze them.
Cool. Sounds good. Policy around granularity and grouping of artifact storage paths. Right. We're waiting to hear what cluster API wants. It's a nice to have. And if we decide to migrate from the current schema that we have, we need to make sure container image promoter supports it. And that issue is still open. Setting up a job in wg-k8s-infra to automatically run the audit script.
We actually didn't meet with James yet about it, but I did some research. I read the code base, and I actually have a question for you, Aaron, because you told that it's tightly coupled with the testing infra repository, and
Yeah.
I was reading the code base. Actually, the only coupling was in the Go packages.
Okay.
See it coupled. So this is as far as I see the configuration, it is kind of easy to start it and use it with different repositories. I'm saying about the PR creator of the tool. Sorry.
Okay. Is it built as an image?
So the thing which is coupled is the image building, which is right now done inside the testing infra. So we can just decouple, to just build this as an image. But as far as I see, the tool is not coupled to work only on the test infra GitHub repository.
Okay. I think the challenge I had was getting it to create a PR without exposing, to push code to a branch /fork without exposing a GitHub token. Because it seems like that's done via some bash scripts right now.
Okay, so that I didn't get into that much.
Okay. But that's good to know. It would be cool maybe if we started by filing an issue in test infra to get that built as an image.
Yeah, okay, so that would be my action item.
Turn down the tools cluster. Oh, this is waiting on me. So all the Slack infra stuff is definitely moved over. We don't, okay. I'll turn down this cluster after this meeting. Configuration of the AAA cluster.
I even forget this issue. I think we can close it because there was a discussion about the Terraform stuff too. Actually, I don't remember this issue at all.
Okay. Moniz, your name is all over this, but I think Bart's right that we can.
I think that it was related that I didn't understand how we should move the project with the DNSs and everything. And right now, I know how to do it and how many steps it needs to be done to move the project with the DNS, to create the ingress, to create a certificate, resources, and
okay.
This resolved, I think. But this definitely need to be written down.
Okay.
Because so far I was helping the people with that.
I am not signed in. That's what it is. Give me a second. Let me sign in on a screen that's not shared with everybody, and I can start doing stuff.
Just catching back up a bit with this issue. Yeah, just basically making it easier for people to self-service. I think what it comes down to is just setting that annotation on the ingress resource that they themselves control to point it to the name of like their own ingress resource that they're editing, or adding the edit in place annotation actually if they're manually. Oh no, they're not. We don't use ingress shim, so it's a case of basically specifying an annotation on the certificate, the name of the ingress resource that should be edited to insert the rules. And it is it's a weird area of the Cert Manager API right now, because you define an issuer with a name on the the actual issuer resource. Sorry, you define the name of the ingress to edit on the issuer resource, which is effectively a default for those that don't override it explicitly with another. But I don't think that's really a problem. I think we can basically just tell people to add that annotation to their certificate object pointing to the name.
I think we did. Like I feel like the certificates already do the thing you said.
Yeah, no, they already do that. I think it's just documenting that that needs to happen and maybe linking off to the cert manager docs to explain like why. Maybe. I'm just conscious that in a world in like, you know, years to come where other people come and pick this up, it may be less clear.
So you're saying we should hold this open for some docs fixes?
Well, I'm not sure. Do we have some like onboarding docs for creating, like for deploying a new project? If not, then I don't think we should block up. Like, I don't think we should keep this issue open necessarily
Okay.
to track that. No.
Don't think we do.
And I actually
Maybe wrong. Actually,
commented, I think, quite explicitly about the flow in one of the pull requests, and I will find a link.
so we do have running your workload or how to run your thing in our clusters. That sounds like a doc. And it mentions cert manager, not the specific thing you were discussing. So maybe we could put a little tidbit of knowledge here.
And I, when you open the link which I just sent you, there is my comment to one of the pull requests about moving node perf dash, and there is exactly the flow about the certificates and the ingresses.
Okay.
To do. Because there was this part was missing in the pull request, so I commented about it.
Okay. Turning down the Kubernetes cluster. Can't do that because Kettle's still running there. Haven't touched Kettle. Improve the security posture of the image promotion process. Linus, this is.
I think this should be closed. I don't think we're adding any more new security related like changes or improvements to the promoter.
Okay, your last comment was that runbook and escalation paths are not defined yet. Do we have those?
Actually, I should just correct myself. No, so I guess this should remain open.
Okay.
Yeah, I can work on that. It's in my queue.
Okay. Let's see. Anybody remember what this one was about?
I have no idea, honestly.
Sorry, this is about the vulnerability scanning of container images and how to publish the vulnerability findings. It's unfortunately highly linked, like it requires people being in a service account, and I was unhappy with that, and I want to dig into it further, but I have not had a chance to do this. But like, I imagine all of the hosted providers will want that info stream so that they can know that, you know, if they're pulling anything from upstream repositories when there's vulnerabilities.
Okay. I will leave this here for now. Grant, so this is probably related, but in the interim, we want to grant this role to each staging admin group?
Right. So if you own any staging, you should be able to see the vulnerability reports for. Basically, we want to turn vulnerability scanning on the main repository, not on the staging repositories, because vulnerability scanning is a paid service. So we don't want to scan the same images twice just because we copied them to a different repository, I think. So if we just give everybody access to the vulnerability findings on the main repository, for now, at least the staging owners can say, oh no, I have a vulnerability in my thing. But ultimately we want this to be a more public thing, I think, but we need to actually talk with the ProdSec folks.
Okay, so do we want to have a discussion before we try enabling this role, or do we want to enable this role for now? I guess my concern might be that like the cluster API AWS people can learn of security vulnerabilities that have nothing to do with AWS or vice versa.
And the vast majority of the vulnerabilities are in base images, not in leaf images. So it's already public information, right? Like the database that we're getting this information from isn't secret.
Okay.
So again, this is where I would defer to the security committee on what is secret information and what isn't. My assumption, and it may be bad, was that this isn't secret information.
Okay. Develop better ACLs. This is on me. So right now, my whole reason for creating these proud build clusters, in addition to actually spending the money that we have, is to make sure that more community members can troubleshoot and debug things. I will work to put together a plan and some PRs over the next 2-week period to have folks review this. This is a bit of, let me see. Okay, this is a follow-up issue that I still haven't gotten to. I will. It's refactoring. Setting up GH proxy. So that GH proxy might help with triage party if token usage is a real crazy problem, but it's not something, setting up is not something I had planned on juggling this week. So I'd be curious to see how we get along with triage party as is, but if we find that token usage is still a problem, GH proxy may be useful. Things I am not going to get to. So the way I have the proud build clusters set up right now, there are resources folders in alongside all of the Terraform Terraform files that create the cluster. And I want to set up a proud job that, like, when we change one of the resources, they just automatically get deployed to the cluster in question. This can be done now with proud jobs that run on our trusted cluster. We just need to do it. It would save me pain because every time I make a change, I have to manually deploy it right now. So maybe I will be the person motivated to do this. But there's prior art for how something like this would work in the testing for repo, if anybody is interested. I opened an issue a while ago to propose that we stop using git-crypt entirely and use Secret Manager. I did a proof of concept to use Secret Manager just for our group's reconciliation thing. Okay, Dim says a comment that I need to touch up the README. Bart, I feel like there are some secrets related to Slack infra and stuff that still live in git-crypt. Is that correct?
Yes, but actually they are not in this wg-k8s-infra. I think they lives in Slack infra repository, but I'm not sure. I need to check. Maybe I'm actually may be wrong. Let me see. I think I'm wrong actually. Yeah, I'm wrong. So they are here. And actually, I don't have access to it, so I can't change it.
Okay. I guess I will take that then.
Yeah, the only 4 of you have access. You, Dim, Steam, and one more person.
Okay. We're at our last 10 minutes. Instead of rolling through a laundry list of stuff, is there any particular issue or pull request that is pressing that people want to talk about? I'll just go take a look at our incoming issues and see if there's anything new here. Thank you for creating that, Tim. Since we have James here, I'm losing my place in my tabs.
Yeah. So yeah, this one came up obviously because key.io went out. So now everyone's asking questions about how we do stability of images. So from the cert manager side, I don't like we pretty much it will cost us too much money to ourselves put things onto GCR. We aren't. I think Cluster API obviously have a preference to have everything for Cluster API shipped through GCR. But otherwise, we were going to investigate some kind of way to mirror, like from key.io to Docker Hub or some other free service if it's not possible. But yeah, that's kind of the state of things. I don't know a ton more beyond that. So, well, it seems fairly straightforward though. I don't know.
So I just, while we were discussing and I was poking into the billing stuff, I noticed that the staging CSI had a significantly higher bill, like 30 times higher than the next closest staging repository. And so I just dropped them a quick note as to why. And the answer was this Quay problem. You know, the Americans say Quay, right, James? So I don't really know what we want to do with this. Cert Manager is not, it's not officially a Kubernetes sub-project, right?
No, it's not.
Right.
It's not a foundation either. So.
Right. So it's difficult for us to offer free hosting for it, although I feel like it's pretty important to our ecosystem, so it's to our advantage to find a way to make that possible. Yeah, and I don't really know how to crack that nut yet.
I agree with your sentiment entirely. It's not something that I'd have thought to have asked before because, well, for exactly that reason, because it's a slippery slope and putting on the k8s-infra hat, like hosting random other projects. It's very generous, but yeah, it's not really our business. But yeah, I'm not too sure about the Cluster API side of things, or their usage, or what we'd term or deem like acceptable usage within a limit, and how we'd set that really.
And, you know, frankly, if we set up mirroring for things that aren't meeting some bar, like nothing prevents the mirror from becoming the primary eventually. right? Which puts us right back into that slippery slope of what things are we going to mirror. I'm not against doing it. I think we need to set up some criteria for the things that we think are critical to our Kubernetes ecosystem to survive outages and to set up our mirroring. And eventually we'll have our own mirrors, right? Where it won't just be GCR, it'll also be available in other repositories. I think something like Cert Manager, like there is some principle abstractly, I don't know how to express it, but there's some principle that says Cert Manager is important. We should probably make sure that it doesn't go away. But I don't know what that principle is, so I don't know what other cases would fall into that.
Yeah.
And very concretely, we do host core DNS. So like we were actually already on the slippery slope, although core DNS is CNCF, so there's some shadow of a principle there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I suppose as a stopgap, we can do things like pushing to Docker Hub. I don't think that's too difficult from our point of view. But it doesn't solve the ultimate problem of, it actually being managed and controlled by k8s-infra. What do you think the best way to go about defining a criteria could be? Because it doesn't seem like an easy question to answer.
Yeah, no. Maybe, I don't know. Aaron, do you think this rises to steering? Do you think steering says, I don't know, guys, fix it?
Steering's gonna say, I don't know, guys, fix it. It's just really tricky because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the reason like etcd and core DNS get this is because like there isn't a Kubernetes without this. Like a certified conformant Kubernetes cluster kind of needs to have or what Kubernetes comes with out of the box, right, is etcd and core DNS. Kubernetes without DNS is not really a functional Kubernetes. I can't necessarily say the same thing about Cert Manager.
I think the issue in this case is for cluster API to do certain things, it is a requirement. So it's almost, yeah, I think that's the issue here.
Well, and etcd and core DNS are both CNCF, so we can at least sort of close one eye to it and say, well, they're in the family, whereas Cert Manager isn't. Not to say that it's less open. I don't want to get into the politics of what is open and not, but just the billing account is allocated to CNCF. Do you have any idea what the order of magnitude serving cost might be, James? Like, is it $50 a month or $500 a month or $5,000 a month?
I mean, I don't think I can answer that accurately because this would be more specifically cluster APIs usage. If you're talking about the overall usage, you don't want to be picking up that tab because I think it's something like, according to the Quay image statistics, it's like 1 million image pools a day, which doesn't go down well. I think that's people setting up things like Harbor to actually mirror things across. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'd be difficult to answer. And maybe if we look at the usage statistics for cluster API images or some other similarly required component, that might be able to give us a better signal. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, GCS and GCR are fairly poor in their ability to deliver statistics like that. So I can tell you on a cost breakdown how much each staging project costs, but most people aren't serving out of their staging project. They're serving out of the main repository, which is currently mixed in with a whole bunch of other stuff. And once we finish the vanity flip, we'll just see a huge spike in the cost and we still won't have really good breakdown.
Yeah, I don't think you can do per image statistics. I suppose you could look at the number of times objects have been accessed or something.
Yeah, and actually I think even the GCS logs are kind of busted when you pull through GCR. I don't know, I turned that on about 2 years ago and it didn't work the way I expected it to. Maybe worth trying again.
Okay, may I suggest to move the discussion on Slack or GitHub because we just closed the over time.
Yeah. Thanks, James. I saw your Slack message that would, I think, change the game. But let's maybe we can take it to email and we can discuss a little bit and then see how to proceed.
Sounds good.
You got my email, right? I'm hard to find.
Yeah. I think
Thanks.
so. I think so.
Okay, so
Everybody.
everyone for being here, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, all.